special series of international children's stories brought to you by the Dubai UAE Expo 2020 school program. At Read for the Culture, we celebrate, appreciate, and patronize our authors and illustrators by adding their stories to our at-home libraries. Please visit the description box for a link to your free copy of the Expo 2020 Children's Tales from Around the World. Now that you have your story, find a cozy spot to read and your Read for the Culture passport, because this story takes our imagination to the United Arab Emirates, a country located along the eastern coast of the Arabian Peninsula. Ready to take off? Okay, fellow explorers, let's get reading. Fattouh the Mangrove Demon, illustrated by Hazza and Zayed. The Emirates of Abu Dhabi and Ras Al Khaimah are homes to stunning mangroves, but none are as beautiful and majestic as those in the mangrove forest of Kalba. It is here, in the eastern region city, where Fattouh, the fearsome jinn demon, lives. With long limbs, sharp claws, and piercing eyes of a cat, Fattouh is a formidable creature, tall enough to touch the skies. Fattouh doesn't like to leave his home in the mangroves, nor does he welcome visitors. You see, people have been unkind to Fattouh because of his appearance. The countless screams and moments of ridicule hardened him, draining him of every drop of kindness and warmth. One day, a woodcutter ventured into the mangrove forest to fetch some dry wood to sell. He arrived early in the morning and started counting his blessings when he chanced upon a large amount of good quality wood. He set to work and worked very hard indeed until the midday heat bore into his back. My, how the time got away from him! The wise never dared to step foot in the mangrove forest of Kalba at midday, when the feared Fattouh would emerge to guard his beloved home. The jinn did not take kindly to people entering his home, and made sure that any naive trespassers learned their lessons. The woodcutter was so focused on his work that he didn't notice Fattouh's shadow drift over him. He raised his head and saw the demon's long arms and legs, the sharp claws on his fingers and toes. He trembled as his gaze met Fattouh's yellow, feline-like eyes. The demon hissed and bared his razor-sharp teeth. The woodcutter threw his wood onto the ground and ran as fast as his legs could carry him. Fattouh took off after him, thrilled by the chase. It had been a while since he had chased someone away, and he worried that he might be losing his scary edge. Fattouh thought about all the unkind things he could do to this mindless man who dared to enter his forest. Maybe I could tickle him, he thought while running, his feet sinking into the mud one after the other. Or, maybe I could blow raspberries in his face. I could call him a goat. What if I tripped him? Ha! I could hang him from the branches by the sleeves of his kandora. The man ran fast as his Na'al sandals would allow, but he was no match for Fattouh. After a while, the man slowed to catch his breath, and Fattouh seized his weakness as an opportunity to pounce. He leapt on him, knocking him to the ground. The woodcutter fought hard, but Fattouh was not going to back down. At first, he enjoyed the tussle, but the excitement quickly faded into boredom. Normally, his opponents had given up by this time, leaving Fattouh basking in the glory of his victory. Arrgh! Fattouh roared in frustration, his eyes rolling back to reveal the whites beneath. Terrified by the ferocity of the demon's cry, the woodcutter fell to the ground unconscious. Fattouh stared at the still man, dumbfounded. Uh-oh, that wasn't supposed to happen, Fattouh mumbled. Scratching the back of his head, he poked the man. Nothing. He shouted at him, but his piercing cries didn't jolt the man's senses. Did he just take this man's life? His confusion quickly turned into regret and sadness. He held the man's body in his arms, and for the first time in a long time, he wept. He wept because he had been foolish. He wept because he hurt a man who had done nothing to deserve this treatment. He wept because of the unfriendly attention his appearance attracted. He wept because he has always tried to hurt people before they could hurt him first. The man groaned. Fattouh's relief crashed over him like a tidal wave. Shh, shh, it's okay. You're alive and you're safe, Fattouh whispered to him gently. That man's eyelids slowly fluttered open. I'm so sorry I hurt you. I shouldn't have scared you. Please forgive me. I will never hurt you or anyone else again, he promised, seeing the fear behind the man's eyes. The man nodded. Still dazed, a weak smile crept over his face, showing he was no longer scared. You're known to be fearful, Fattouh. Why do you let people believe that? He asked the creature. Fattouh was caught off guard. Nobody ever cared enough to ask him that. In the warm company of the woodcutter, Fattouh began to realize that acts of kindness and forgiveness produced far more pleasure than those of fear and revenge. It was in the mangrove forest of Kalba where Fattouh pledged never to hurt anyone again. To make up for his behavior, he invited the woodcutter back to his home with the offer, not just of firewood, but of friendship as well. The woodcutter gratefully accepted, acknowledging that friends can come in all shapes and sizes. Did you know? Fattouh is one of the best known and most feared characters of the UAE's fables. Stories about the mangrove demon have been passed down through generations of cautionary tales, and like many of the UAE's folktales, are told to warn children against dangerous places and activities. The eastern region of the UAE, where Kalba is located, is rich with folktales inspired by its beautiful nature and scenery, and its location surrounded by the Hazza Mountains. Kalba has a rich biodiversity with large mangrove swamps, including the Kalba Conservation Reserve. Mangroves are very important habitats. They provide food and shelter to many marine and bird species and act as nurseries for young fish. They help protect shorelines from flooding, storms, and erosion, and also store carbon, which can help to regulate climate change. The UAE has many mangrove forests along its shoreline. A kandora is a traditional man's robe, which is typically white. Kandoras are worn throughout the Arabian Peninsula, with each country having its own unique flourishes. Well, my read for the culture friends and family, I certainly hope you enjoyed that story just as much as I did. Please go ahead and show the channel some love by hitting the like and subscribe button and leave a comment too. At Read for the Culture, we enjoy reading inspiring, uplifting, multicultural stories for the entire family to enjoy. So please, come back and enjoy another special story from the Expo 2020 Children's Tales from Around the World. See you then!